Oh my gosh, this is legit. I've never had so much fun in a WWE game till now. This is awesome.
I'll keep this short and sweet. I'm giving you the opportunity of a lifetime as a general manager here in the WWE.
Now, one of the most common complaints in relation to modern WWE video game releases is that they pale in comparison to older games such as No Mercy and games from the SmackDown vs. Raw series. But one of the ways WWE and 2K can improve their future release is by incorporating features from prior releases that fans love so much to truly create a game that all wrestling fans enjoy playing. But which features were they? Well, join us now as Wrestlegamia looks at 10 features that classic WWE video games had that could make 2K22 successful. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you're the first to know when we upload. Number 10, Road to WrestleMania.
Is my music still playing? They came to see John Cena, but he is not out yet. Psych, you're like, Santi, what's wrong with you? You got a tummy ache?
The Road to WrestleMania feature on the SmackDown vs. Raw series was extremely popular with players. Players were able to pick one of 5 wrestlers and they would play exclusively as that character with the end goal of obviously main eventing WrestleMania. But one of the reasons that the feature was so popular was that it reflected what was seen on television. The entire year in WWE builds towards WrestleMania, so it made logical sense for video games to have a feature based on this. The inclusion of the Road to WrestleMania on 2K22 could really work well, because players could potentially pick either Raw, SmackDown, or an NXT pathway to WrestleMania, as well as having the option to play as a member of the women's roster. Number 9. Introduce a submission system similar to that used in Day of Reckoning. One of the things that DOR did extremely well was incorporate a popular submission system which put the focus on strategy and calculation. In the follow-up Day of Reckoning 2, the submission system was incredibly advanced for its time. Players could perform one of 4 different submission moves and all of them came with different consequences. For instance, you couldn't win a match via submission unless you chose the physical submission option. The taunt submission would drain the opponent, the rest hold submission did little damage but allowed the attacking player to regain stamina, whilst the submission drained the opponent of all their stamina. This system is something that 2K should look towards including in its gameplay, as it will make the matches and overall gameplay a much more sophisticated player experience. Number 8. Create a Finisher. Create a Finisher was first introduced in the SmackDown vs. Raw series and was a popular feature with players, especially those who enjoyed creating their own superstars. It allowed players to take ownership over their entire created character and ultimately create something, well, completely unique.
Here we go. Here we go. Hit it, Dolph. Hit it, Dolph. Do what you gotta do. This finisher move is so extra. But it's so clean!
Additionally, this feature being added into 2K22 could work really well with new finishers that debut on television after the game's release. Number 7. Face paint damage. One of the things that made older WWE video games with fans was the attention to detail the games offered. Now, for instance, if a wrestler wore face paint, it would gradually fade throughout the match, exactly how it would if it was a real match. This feature was seen in 2K18, but it wasn't present in 2K20. 2K22 should look to add some details like this, which would make a more polished game for players. Number 6. Explore more sound options. One of the small touches that 2K should look to explore is the idea of more sound options within the gameplay itself. For instance, in 2K20, when the players would mute the menu music, this resulted in the game also muting entrances within the gameplay. This is just a little touch that made 2K20 a problematic game for fans. Additionally, they should look towards introducing new sound elements into the game. There's been discussion of players uploading their own music to use as background music to the main menus, as well as entrance themes for their custom wrestlers. However, according to an AMA with one of the game's developers, Patrick Gilmore, this is a challenge. Gilmore would reveal that 2K were exploring the idea of allowing players to use custom music on menu and load screens, but he noted that this is a challenge due to copyright issues and couldn't promise whether this feature will be in 2K22. Number 5. Minigames. The inclusion of minigames were a popular feature in SmackDown vs. Raw. The pre-match minigames were randomly chosen prior to any singles match, as players would either play a test of strength, a stare down, or a shoving match. These mini-games were fun and entertaining and added an extra layer to the gameplay. There were also mini-match games including chop battles and spanking mini-games. Of course, this wouldn't be to everyone's liking, so there should be an option to turn them off, but they were a fun addition in the older games. Number 4. Bring back creator story. One of the elements from SmackDown vs. Raw 2011 that 2K could include in their next release is the creator story feature. In the 2011 installment of the game, players were able to create an entire storyline from start to finish, and they could be in control of everything from which wrestlers were involved to how the show was presented. Number 3. Introduced new backstage areas to explore and fight in.
I've never had so much fun in a WWE game till now. This is awesome.
2K22 should look to incorporate one of the most popular elements from SmackDown Here Comes the Pain. In the game, the entire arena was explorable, meaning that players weren't strictly confined to the ring or the ringside area. In Here Comes the Pain, you would brawl in the parking lot, fight in the locker room, and even go onto the streets. And whilst 2K does add these in new games, it gets a little bit boring when it's the same backstage area in every single game. Adding this element would definitely make gameplay much more entertaining.
Are you kidding me? Oh my god. Okay.
Number 2. Using the weight minigame from Day of Reckoning. Out of all the weight detection features in the history of WWE games, the weight detection minigame used in Day of Reckoning was without a doubt the most effective. When players would play with a smaller wrestler and they would go to lift a heavy wrestler, such as Ray vs. The Big Show, players would have to mash buttons as quickly as possible to lift their opposing player. Now, the difference between this weight detection and weight detection found in newer games such as 2K20, as it still has a weight detection feature, is that further down the match, you would be able to lift your opponent if they were weak enough. And number 1, reintroduce GM mode.
And superstars make me a legend. And that's what I expect from you. To become a master of this business. And that's your responsibility, pal. Not mine. All I can do is give you the chance. It's up to you to make an impact.
General Manager mode was without a doubt one of the most popular features of the SmackDown vs. Raw games. It was so popular that when AEW announced that they would be releasing a video game, GM mode was the first thing that fans requested to be featured in the game. GM mode would take WWE 2K22 to the next level, and whilst they can't do a carbon copy of the original GM mode, they would be able to do something similar, and players continue to ask why 2K haven't already done this.
So what are you waiting around for?
But there you have it, folks. 10 things that old WWE games had that can make 2K22 successful. Is there anything else that you'd like added in the game from previous games? Let us know in the comments down below, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling video game content.